Hello and welcome guys to another video, and today we have a hot lap and track guide for Nürburgring, which is week 11 of the GT Sprint series. So let's have a look at the hot lap and then we'll have a look at the guide. So going into the first corner, we want to have a look on the left hand side, and we're looking for the 100-meter board on the left hand side. So as we get to that 100-meter board, we want to get onto the brakes, down into first gear, and it's quite a late turn in. There's a barrier on the right hand side, and basically just after that disappears on our middle monitor, we want to turn in. But we're aiming to turn in, basically put the right side of the car here, just where that curb disappears, because there's a little bit of a drop at the apex. So we're going to see that here. We want to put the right tyre now as close to this bollard without touching it, and then as the rear of the car settles off that bump, then we get back on the power. If you get on the power too early, you're going to wheel spin it. So just get on the power once the rear is settled. And now you don't need to bring it over to the left because we've got a left-hander coming up. So allow it to obviously use some of the track on the exit, but don't go all the way over to this curb. Bring it back over to the middle of the track here to open up this upcoming left-hander. Now there's a little bit of concrete here on the right hand side that ends, and there's a lighter patch of grass here on the right hand side. So we want to use that as kind of our turn-in reference as we get to that lighter patch of grass. Second gear, lift off the throttle, and just a slight touch of the brakes if you need to, maybe just 10%. You might be able to just lift depending on the track conditions. Just coast the car at the apex, and then get on the power around about halfway around the corner. Progressively get onto the power though, because there's a bit of elevation change on that corner. Now we can use all of this exit curbing on the right hand side here. Just make sure your left side tyre doesn't go over this white line, because otherwise it will invalidate. So going into this left-hander, the best braking reference is just after this little kink here. There's this white line going this way, and then it changes to the left here. Just after we cross that little change, we want to get onto the brake pedal, or about a car length before this green tarmac ends on the right hand side, whichever is easier to use as a reference. Now down into second gear, and we want to put the left side tyre onto this red and white curbing, turning in quite early and basically just following this curb around. Down into first gear now, coast it, and we can put the left side tyre onto this concrete. Just be careful for track limits. We get on the power really nice and early, but still keeping the left steering input. As you see, this curb is just about to end on the left side, and just after we pass that, then we will open up the steering wheel, and what that's going to allow us to do is actually point over to the left side here. And then we can go full throttle here into the right hander, just a slight lift just before the apex, and then back onto the power, and that will allow us to carry as much speed as possible. So be careful on the exit for track limits. You can use a lot here. Just be careful you don't use too much and invalidate it, but it's very lenient. The main goal with that corner is to sacrifice the left-hander entry speed so that you can open up the right-hander, because that's the most important corner there. So we've got a little straight, and then we've got this left-hander, and we've got these cones on the right-hand side, and we're braking basically halfway between the start and the end of these cones. So about halfway, we want to get on the brakes, down into third gear, trail the brakes. It's quite a late apex, as you can see here, coasting it, and then getting on the power about 75% away around the corner, and allow it to go out to the middle of the track and then bring it back over to the left. And we want to brake about a car length before this concrete starts on the edge of this red and white curbing, about a car length before that. Get onto the brakes and bring it over to the left side of the track. Down into second gear just as the curb on the left hand side ends, and then again a really late turn in and getting on the power nice and early, as you can see here. And we can use all this exit curbing on the left hand side. It won't invalidate us unless you touch the gravel, but if you're touching the gravel you're going to lose time. Now for this hairpin, we want to look on the left hand side, and basically as this curbing type material on the left hand side starts, we want to get onto the brakes. Now we want to put it down into the camber. This hairpin's really cambered, so we want to get the right front tyre as low as possible and just allow the corner to pull us round. We can take a slight double apex, as you see here. Some cars prefer you just to hold the inside line, but sometimes it's quicker to take that double apex. Get on the power as early as possible out of this hairpin, and then make sure to use all of this exit curbing. As you see here, nice and wide exit curbing. Just again, be careful not to touch the gravel on the left side. Now for Schumacher S, we want to put the right side tyre up on top of this red and white curbing and basically full throttle, and then we want to lift slightly to about 75%. Now the reference for lifting is just after this red and white curbing starts on the inside. So just after that starts, we want to lift off the power. There isn't a turn-in reference, you just have to get a feel for it. But basically just lift off the power to about 70%, then get back on the power, and as you see it's going to allow you to drift out over the right side, but we can take a lot of this curbing, as you see here. Just be careful not to trigger the track limits by touching the gravel, but as you see you can take pretty much all the curb and cross that white line, and it's perfectly valid. On the exit here, you're not going to use that much exit curbing because you're cutting so much of that right curb. Now for this fairly similar corner but a lot slower, we want to brake basically halfway between the start and the end of this alternate course, I think, on the right hand side. I think this is an alternate course here or an escape road, but basically halfway between the start and the end of this tarmac on the right hand side, we want to get onto the brakes. And then down into second gear, and we want to get the left side tyre on the inside of this red and white curbing. As you see here, that's going to help us to hook the car around. And then we get on the power just as we come off that curbing. Again, we're not going to let it go too far over to the right. As you see here, we're going to bring it back over to the left very early to then open up this right-hander. And we want to brake about a car length before the end of this barrier on the left. As you see here, this barrier ends and then another one starts. So there's about a car length before the end of that. That's the best reference to really use. The other reference you could use is about 2 car lengths before the start of this curb on the right hand side. Whichever's easier for you to use as a reference, just use that. Third gear here, then down into second gear usually. Although in the Audi, as you can see here, we can just keep it in third. Get on the power nice and early and allow the car to drift out wide. And again, use all the curbing on the exit. Just be cautious not to touch the gravel. Now we've got the slow chicane, which is very unusual for iRacing because we usually have the fast chicane on this track. So we're looking on the right hand side, trying to remind ourselves it's a slow chicane because I did this a few times in practice. I forgot which one it was. And we're braking after the 100 meter board. Just after we pass the 100 meter board, we're braking down into second gear, trying to get it turned in just before the curb on the left hand side starts. Down into second gear, now down into first gear, putting the left side tyre on the inside of this sausage curb. It feels unnatural, but the suspension stabilizes very quickly. Just make sure you get on the power as you touch that curb, and that's going to lift the front of the car up, and then straighten the wheel to be able to put the right front on the inside of this curbing here. And again, it's going to bump the car up, but because of the dampers and the suspension, it settles really quickly and we can get back on the power 100%. And now for the final corner, put the left side tyre up above this red and white curbing, and we want to get on the brakes about this point. Really is where we start to get on the brakes. As you can see, there isn't really a good reference. What you can use is the start of this grass on the right hand side. It's about 2 or 3 car lengths before that. Or if you just get a feel for how long is left of this curb before you need to brake, I just usually do this corner based on feel, because like I say, there isn't really a reference to use. But the main focus of this corner is to open it up as much as possible and just carry as much speed as you can. Try and open up that corner. That's why we put the left side tyre up on that curb. So we want to get down into second gear and we want to get on the power just as we reach this pit entry barrier. So as we reach that, we want to get onto the power. And if you're getting onto the power at the start of that barrier, that usually means you're going to get a good enough exit onto the start finish straight. And again, you can use this green tarmac on the left hand side. You can go over the white line. Just again, be careful not to touch the gravel. But that is it for the track guide, guys. As always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again next time.